Hello, and welcome to the Defender Roundtable, where we talk about any and everything that's pertinent to the news. And as you can see, we're one short. Our fearless leader is on a much needed vacation. So you stuck with me, Terrence Harris, as the host, and we have the fantabulous Laura Oyenaho, and we have the always on point brother, Swad Walker. Hey guys, we're gonna have a little conversation this week. Like the next 4 years are about to be crazy, and in the first 2 weeks, if the first 2 weeks are any indication of what we're about to go through with this guy sitting in the White House again, it's always going to be something, and it's usually not going to be good. We got a billion things we could talk about, but this week, after kind of watching what we've seen, you know, our brown brothers and sisters go through, along with other immigrants being rounded up, and shipped off to other countries, without any kind of representation, any kind of, it has to be sitting kind of, difficult with us all. And so, it brings us to this whole conversation of what can we do together to help one another, get through this. I mean, because clearly we need, we all need help. And both sides do. And the belief is together we'll be better. And so, I wanted to sit down with you guys and just let's bounce this around, like where we are in our relationship. I mean, with our brown brothers and sisters. I mean, does it exist? And and what's maybe been some of the challenges. So, I kind of want to start out with you, Aswad. I mean, like what do you think has historically been the issue that's maybe prevented the black and browns coming together? Because and clearly we have some of the same issues.
Yeah, so historically, hell, it's the same old story. It's divide and conquer. It's try to figure out how to pit this group against that group so that they don't work together to try to create some type of better society for all people. But even with that, historically, we've had moments where we worked together. We've had all kinds of moments in the 1960s up in Chicago with Fred Hampton. He was not only working with the Black Panther Party as the head of the Illinois chapter, but he was uh, coalescing with uh, poor whites. He was coalescing with the Chicano liberation movement in Chicago. So he was bringing black, brown, and white folk together. Out in California, you had Cesar Chavez, and black folk were standing in solidarity with the migrant workers. And then Dolores Huerta, who is still a national activist in the labor front. And so you had brown folk and black folk fighting for labor rights. Hell, they even made a movie about it, Richard Pryor, Which Way Is Up, which is probably before your time, Laura, maybe before your time too.
Boy, but you
Um,
better shut up before I put this glove on your ass. Don't play me. Don't play
so
me.
you have okay,
Yeah,
so
you
you
know
know
I
what I'm
saw
talking
it. Come
about.
on, baby.
That whole movie was about black and brown people working together to make this a better society. So we've got that history right here in Houston, especially in the 1970s, 1980s. There was a political coalition of black and brown folk who were tight and who were making strides for our people. But I don't know how y'all felt, but with this past election, I felt like all that went out the window. I
Yeah.
felt like all the coalition and all the allies and all that, they gave black folk the finger. And I don't know where we are with that right now.
And Laura, I ask you, to take off on that. I mean, so what can we do to get it back? I mean, or can we get it back? I mean, is there? I mean, is there trust, a trust issue that we have?
I mean, for the most part, we have to remember that racism is so embedded in our system that it isn't always easy to see, and it gives Latinos like a separate but an equal experience in the U.S. So, at the same time, the Latino perspective has largely gone missing in the conversations when we're talking about racial equality and civil rights. And also, just even talking about even as far as colorism, for example, racism is just deep. It's deep. Because when I talk to folks, even in the communities themselves, there's even this like dynamic amongst color, light, white passing Latinos versus Afro Latino. It goes very, very deep. So that if you have hate amongst your own people of different color, can you only imagine Black people, in the United States? So I can't say it didn't come from anywhere. It's just that racism is so deep in the culture that it's just like it's hard to have to reverse it. Not to say that we can't, there won't be any progress. It's just going to take a long, long time to get to a common ground where we have some understanding. Because I believe, Aswad, you're right. Like Terrence, you're right. We do have commonalities in our struggle. We're so clouded in this.
Yeah. And
That's the problem that we have.
yeah, and I just wonder, I mean, to be honest with you, it's like, can we trust them? I mean, I've never seen a situation where you had a presidential candidate tell you what he was going to do to you. He told you that, he was going to deport you, when he got into office. But yet these people work so, I mean, they work so diligently against their own best interests. And I mean, and I think, some of them, like we had a couple on, back in December, and these people felt like, heck, I mean, like they had that their own people, they felt like they had done the right way, and so they expected them to do the right way. And if they didn't, it seemed like they didn't care. But I mean, what they don't understand is the way that this thing is working. Don't get caught out here without your ID on you, because you might be on a plane and back to wherever, and it'd be a foreign as foreign the land as anything to you. And so these, I mean, it's like going back to in a lot of ways, it feels a lot like going back to the slavery days of having making sure you got your papers on you. And that's why I just wondered, like, can we trust them? I mean, can we trust the Hispanic population to do the right thing as a whole? I mean, and will they side with us?
And I don't know if I don't. I mean, I like your question. I like your question, but I don't even know if that's the right question because like Laura was saying, this whole anti-blackness thing runs deep. This and so it's very seductive. This call to try to cozy up to whiteness is so seductive that there's anti-blackness in the brown community, in the Asian community. Hell, there's anti-blackness in the Black community, and so I think the best thing we can do is to FUBU, for us, by us, do for self, because when folks see us achieving, even though, what am I trying to say? If we do what we can do in this moment, we will be not only surviving, but we will be thriving even in the midst of madness while all these other folk are effing around and finding out.
Yeah.
But if we're going to attach all of our value and all of our hopes and dreams to cozying up to whiteness, hell, this is going to be a hellified 4 years. But if we move lockstep with ourselves, we had an article talking about we need a Black and Black coalition. If we do that, and folks see that that is a way forward, hell, folk will come knocking on our doors trying to once again be allies. Then we got to decide if we're going to let them in or not. But I think the number one thing we need to be doing is focus on what we can do for ourselves.
No doubt. I mean, I think that you're definitely on point there. But when you look at the numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We showed up, this last election, and we showed up against this guy in mass. I mean,
Yeah.
and our numbers were impressive, but they still weren't good enough.
Yeah.
So clearly, there's an understanding that we have to figure out a way to align with someone, to help us, in this regard. And so, how do we do that with them? I mean, what can we do to open the lines of communication and get us, back on the same page? Laura?
I kind of feel like, you know, to your point, we have to at least accurately understand the contributions in this country and the systematic barriers that they face. As I think as the first step to making sure, we understand where the bridge of understanding is coming from, right? We watched the TV, we see the news, and we kind of see what the stereotypical, image of Hispanics look like, but they really are hustling in this country. I mean, we are two of the major minority voting blocks in this country, and for them, they also carry their weight here. But when we are watching the news, we don't. It's like people don't put respect on their name because they feel like, oh, everybody who's Hispanic doesn't belong here. But like they're really doing the stuff that regular folks out here are definitely not trying to do. And so if we can acknowledge their contributions in this country and what they do here, I feel like that maybe would be a small step to a good place. I mean, even then, I mean, we have to remember um, our ancestors, their proximity to whiteness is what they needed to survive. I feel like that is just like the mentality people have in this country, or their proximity to power, like Trump, is the closest thing that they feel like they can have to that, um, out of respect, right? But anybody can challenge me. That could be wrong, but like I just kind of feel like the proximity to whiteness is what people need to. They feel like that's what they need
Yeah.
to be at a certain place. And so even then, like there's like nearly, I read 60 million Latinos that live in the U.S. And then there's like what did I read? I read that many of them consider themselves to be black. There's like a percentage of them, and I will definitely come back, circle around, and make sure I get to it. But like, there's a lot of people who report that they are they are black.
Right.
So we just got to remember, look, it's deeper, but we just have to acknowledge them as people and their contributions, regardless of what we see in the news as these criminals or what have you,
Yeah.
and vice
I
versa. Because
like
I don't know what the community thinks about Black people. I'm sure it's even worse.
Probably.
yeah.
What
Yeah.
about though? What about the onus on the Democratic Party to maybe do more reaching out and making them feel involved in a part of the process? Because that's kind of been the genius part, I feel, of the Republican Party, that I feel like they've extended a hand to the Hispanic people and the brown population, and sometimes just to use them. I mean, but do you think that the Democratic Party as a whole, who has, I mean, they got some good white people there that can maybe make them feel a little more welcome and understanding that they need to align that way instead of aligning with people who don't really give a crap about them.
Well, the Democratic Party has done a piss poor job of staying true to its base. It has spent so much of its money, time, resources, and effort trying to peel off some of Trump's supporters rather than its base, which are black and brown folk and young people. And so, to your point, I think the Democratic Party needs to do a whole hell of a lot more. And it is crazy that the Republicans who demonize Latinos almost as bad as they've demonized black folk, just because they reached out their hands a little bit, they were able to reap benefits in terms of the voting outcome. But I think that goes in line with some of that anti-blackness that was already there. But I really like what Laura said about, black folk. We need to see the humanity in our brown brothers and sisters. But I would argue that um, you know, black people's superpower and our kryptonite is the fact that we see all people as human. I mean, to our detriment, sometimes we will see these folk who are treating us like crap, but we still want to see the humanity in them. But we can do better, Laura. I agree with you. I agree with you. But yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, we could continue on with this conversation, probably all day, but unfortunately, we don't have that much time. So we're gonna get ready to cut out of here. But we want to say to the people, if you enjoyed our conversation and you want to continue to be a part of it, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Come check us out every week. Support our journalism. And until the next time, have a great week. And when you see us again, we'll be whole again. And hopefully, we'll have this dialogue one more time, but we'll do it in a more rounded way with some Hispanic folks and who also have an interest in this whole conversation. But until then, see y'all next week. Peace out.
Si se puede, señor, señora. Si se puede.
Hola, hola.
Yeah.